Hello, I'm Mrs. Lawrence and I'm here today to introduce our study skills programme designed to ease your transition from GCSE to sixth form. You may well have been very successful studying at GCSE. Of course, you won't have done exams this year, but you would have prepared for them and had a go at some in-school assessments, so you'll have a pretty good idea what's involved. But will your skills be enough to be successful as a learner in our sixth form, whether you take an A-level, an IB or an AIB route? Let's find out a little bit more about what the programme is and what it can do for you. So, do you recognise these quotes? At GCSE, it's lessons really and a bit of homework. Does that sound like you? At GCSE, I just wrote notes and looked over them. I just read the textbook the night before the exam. I mean, that's quite a common one, isn't it? There's a big gap between GCSE and A-level. And yes, there is. And this is the point of the programme, that we're going to try and help you to understand what that gap is and where you need to adjust and step up your skills to meet these new challenges that you're going to face. They're exciting and they will develop you as a person, but it may be that what you've been doing at GCSE is not going to be very effective at A-level and IB. It took me forever to get settled into it, and I'm still adjusting now, is a quote from a student in March. And given that your studies start in September and you get almost half of your teaching delivery in the autumn term up to Christmas, this is a bit of a problem. We want to get you to hit the ground running. We want you actually to be as effective as we can be right from the beginning of that autumn term. Now, for me, this is the quote. It really is. They were spoon feeding you at GCSE. Okay, so you were being given all the information and you were thinking like, I know what to write in the exam, but I don't understand why I'm writing it. And that, for me, encompasses what the difference is between studying at GCSE and studying at A-level or IB. You have to go a bit beyond that. You have to do more than just know what the answer is and be able to reproduce it. It's not about memorizing loads of stuff. It's about doing that little bit more with the material. It's more challenging, but it's also more rewarding. So, does this sound like you? There are 3 quotes on this page from a particular type of learner. This type of learner will say, well, I memorize information for the exam. I'm only interested in learning it if it's on the exam. And actually, do you know what? I'm afraid of failure. Does that sound like you or someone you know? What about this learner? I'm very organized when I study. I manage my time well. I know what sort of questions will be on the exam. So someone who's checked out the type of questions and has made sure they're prepared accordingly. This is the type of person who will have downloaded the specification and looked at all the example materials and perhaps checked through the mark schemes to see what type of questions they're going to get. What about this type of learner? Are you interested in what things mean? Do you like to link ideas together to see how they relate? Do you use evidence to weigh up an argument? Can you critically think about 2 different aspects of an argument or 2 points of view? Can you compare and contrast? Is this the type of learner you are? Well, what we're hoping to do through the Study Skills programme is to get you to be more like this type of learner on this slide. The first slide you saw is characteristic of what we call a surface learner. We'll do just enough to get by, we'll rely on memorization. If it's not on the exam, they don't care, they don't want to link things together, they just want to know what the answer is and how to do it. The second slide is a strategic learner. And this is in a way a gateway between being a surface learner and a deep learner. You need some strategy. You do need to be alert to the needs of the assessment. You do need to download the specification. You do need to think about what types of questions you'll get and how to prepare for them. You will need to manage your time well in the sixth form. You'll have time that's dedicated to study periods where you're not in a lesson, where you'll have to learn by yourselves. You'll have to do work independently. Where you need to be successful, whether you do A-level or IB or a mixture, is on this page here. You need to be interested in the meaning of things, how things relate together, and how you can use evidence critically to evaluate an argument. So in a diagram, this is what we're aiming for. We're aiming to take you from surface learning, which you've probably found at GCSE level and have found very successful. Partly that's because GCSEs are less in depth, okay, and you're younger, you're less developed. But we need to get you to work your way down strategically to deep learning, which is about knowledge, but it's about so much more than just memorizing facts. And if we can do that, this will be what you need to be successful in A-levels and IB. So let's just say what surface learning is once again. Really what your aim is to reproduce material in the test or the exam rather than actually understanding it. It typically involves just blind acceptance of any information you're given, memorization often of unrelated facts and things like that. Very superficial retention of information. Did you revise something and then forget it almost immediately afterwards? It certainly doesn't promote long-term retention of the information and the knowledge. We want to avoid this in the sixth form. Here's an example of a biology GCSE question that I picked up using ExamPro. And you can see that here, these types of questions are very straightforward. You've got a multiple choice question where you simply have to reproduce some knowledge. Again, you're just naming something, describing something, explaining something, describing something. Nothing that's in any depth. We're not asking why it happens or how it relates to things. These are quite surface questions. We need a deep approach, at the very least aiming for understanding rather than memorization. Can you critically analyze new ideas? Can you link them to things you already know about? Linking them is a really important way as well of promoting retention in your memory. Can you make sure that you can problem solve in unfamiliar concepts? And can you apply things? There's a world of difference to being able to describe how something works, but then to apply it to a new situation. So we need to work on those critical thinking skills. Look at the difference now in the type of questions that you see in this A-level biology question. So here, yes, you've got a quick 2-mark describe, but the second question, straight in, you're looking at similarities and differences. This requires a much deeper level of processing than just describing. And again, in the second question, you're actually explaining what the positions show about the different amino acids, which is actually an application question. So you need these skills because the types of questions you're going to be answering are going to change. And if you want long-term memory and you want deeper understanding, a change of approach may help. So we want to go from simply knowledge. Knowledge is important. It is important. Understanding and knowledge, and declarative means being able to express it verbally. Through wisdom, knowing how to go about things, being able to apply it. Through to that critical thinking, being able to analyze and evaluate using evidence. And so this is the aim of our sixth form study skills period, along with your teachers and your new subjects. We're going to try and help you bridge that gap. It also involves thinking about what learning really means. Most people, if you say, what is learning? Will look at the bottom one, number one, and go, well, okay, it's an increase in knowledge. I want to know more facts. But it's more than just that. These are things that are not very useful unless you can retain them, you can store them, use them, make use of them in application, to make sense of things, to understand why something works the way it is, to perhaps understand things in a different way, to broaden your horizons. And the deepest conception of learning is to develop as a person. We all grow and develop as we learn and we get new ideas. So what's in the study skills program? Well, there are 10 units, the first 5 of which we'll try and deliver for you in the first half term of the autumn term. The first module, Why Are You Here? No, really why? It really develops what I've just introduced here. What are we really here for? What is it all about? The second one takes a bit deeper. What is this learning thing anyway? Looking at how you need to change really from a very superficial approach to a deep approach in order to be successful. The third one is about a mental change from done it to learned it. Think about how different it would be if instead of just simply doing something, say you've done it, and you don't say, have I done it? You actually say, what have I learned by doing this? The fourth one, reading, that's so 20th century, will develop some skills that you've acquired at GCSE. We'll talk about skimming, scanning, quoting, paraphrasing, and so on. Then in the next one, Whose Line Is It Anyway? We'll talk about writing and academic integrity, which means how you can be sure it's your own work and that you haven't plagiarized someone else's work, and how to go about doing that, how to reference things, how to quote your sources. There are 5 further units, which we will tackle at some point during your sixth form. The only way is up is grade booster ideas. Again, ideas about how you can up those skills to get a better grade. Is Google making us stupid? We'll look at the influence of digital technologies on our learning. Are You Talking to Me? Will develop your oracy skills, being able to talk. Eat an Elephant is actually time management. It's a sort of an idea that if you've got a big task, like an elephant task, it can be so easy to put it off. We call this procrastination, and how you can break it into smaller chunks in order to get it done. And the last element is Mind Your Head. Mental health and looking after yourself, staying fit and healthy as a person, both physically and psychologically during your studies. Finally, we'll talk about the 4 pillars of learning, the things that support everything else, and they're actually simpler than you think. The first one is sleep routine and hygiene. Getting a good sleep routine at night, getting your body prepared to go to bed, and things like going to bed and getting up at the same sort of time so you don't mess around with your bodily rhythms. Hydration and nutrition, supporting that brain, a very expensive organ. 23% of all the calories you take in go to supporting your brain. And we're made up of so much water that if we become dehydrated, it affects our cognitive functions, the way we think. So it's really important to get both of those right. Relaxation and exercise. With a good time management program, you will have time to study. You will use make good use of your study periods in school as well as your lessons, and you will have enough time to relax and to exercise. And finally, making use of social support, making sure that you talk to people if you need support, working with people. It's a very human thing. We all need other people, but also talking to other people, perhaps teachers at school, people who can help if you feel that you're starting to struggle. Getting in there early can really help. So all in all, we've got a really comprehensive programme to help support your transition from year 11 into year 12 and beyond. We hope that you'll enjoy the programme, that you'll engage with it and get a real benefit from it. Thank you for listening. I've been Mrs. Lawrence, and I look forward to working with you next year. Bye for now.